Hey everyone, it is finally here. We have the Sony 85mm f1.4 GM2. I am so excited to test it, and look at what an amazing location I have for today's photo shoot. We're gonna get started. We're gonna get right into it. Let's go. Oh wow, I love that so much. That's so dreamy. If you're a portrait or wedding photographer like me, having an 85mm lens in your camera bag is extremely important. And we've been waiting for a while now for Sony to update their 85mm f1.4 GM, which came out all the way in 2016. Now, there's nothing wrong with the GM1. It's a lens I use heavily to this day, but is it starting to show its age when you use it side by side with Sony's newer lenses? Is this 85mm update the one that I've been waiting for, and will I buy it? Today, I'm using this 85 f1.4 GM2 on the Sony a7 IV, and I'll be sharing lots of photo examples in different lighting scenarios and with different apertures so you can see the images this lens produces. I'll be sharing the unedited, straight out of camera photos first at 100% crop so you can see all the details, and afterwards my edited version, which I use my disposable film preset pack to edit this series of photos. I'll also have some video autofocus tests towards the end of the video for you to watch too. I also want to say thank you to Sony Australia for getting this lens in my hands early so I can test it out, but this video is not sponsored. They don't ask me to say anything. All thoughts and opinions are my own.
I hope there's no spiders.
Oh, that looks so sick there. Wow, that's so cool. One of the most prominent updates to this 85mm f1.4 GM2 is its weight. It's one of the first things I noticed when I took it out of the box. It's so impressive how light this lens is. I want to use a little bit of the sun too, so I feel like if you're just here, maybe you could crouch here. In comparison, the GM1 weighs 820 grams and this GM2 now weighs 642 grams. You can absolutely feel this weight difference when using this lens out on location. So it's going to be great for photographers who shoot weddings, for example, or use their 85s for long periods of time. Even though it's much lighter and a little smaller in width, it's just about the same length as the Mark I, and it still has the same 77mm filter thread. This GM2 features a focus ring and aperture ring. It has a click switch for the aperture ring, an iris lock switch, 2 customizable focus hold buttons, an AF to MS switch, and is dust and moisture resistant. Yeah, that's nice when you're up a little bit. You got that little bit of sun on your face. Looks beautiful. Let's dive into image quality. Even when shooting wide open at f1.4, this 85mm GM2 is extremely sharp. I absolutely love the way the photos look. Wow, wow, wow. They are so sharp and clear and clean. This lens produces some really beautiful images. Even though we do have this nice sharpness, in my opinion, this lens still has a flattering render for portraits and skin. As we bump the aperture down to f2.8 and eventually f4, there is still a fine level of sharpness that maintains this flattering look for portraits. Ooh, if you could stand just here in like the sunny bit. Okay, we have the most amazing golden hour right now, so we're gonna see what this lens looks like backlit, see what kind of lens flares it has. Okay, so this is a full body shot. Lovely. So hard to see.
Yeah, no,
I'm blind. Like kind of sway back and forth. We'll get like some movement. Yeah, oh, that's perfect. This 85 provides excellent contrast straight out of the camera, and the colors it produces are very neutral and true to life. The skin tones were super easy to work with in post across a few different photo shoots that I've done with this lens now. So yes, I will have some more videos to share, even more images from this 85 with you very soon. The sun's like moving down pretty fast. These videos also include some comparisons because I had to use the GM1 and 2 side by side to see the differences. Let me know what you want to see between the GM1 and 2 in the comments, and I'll make sure to cover everything. Do you want to try some where you're kind of like stretching as well? Being an 85mm lens, I know we are all interested in what the bokeh and depth of field of this lens looks like. The bokeh is very clean with no textures or aberrations, which is great to see. I think the out of focus transition when you're taking a close-up portrait looks super smooth and beautiful as well. I love that effect of the skin just melting away into blurriness when taking headshots at f1.4. This lens also has a very eye-catching background to foreground separation. It has that 3D pop to the image. Ooh, So pretty. This 85 f1.4 GM2 features 11 circular aperture blades. A couple of extra specs that are good to know are that it has a maximum aperture of f1.4 and a minimum aperture of f16. Oh, that's pretty. With like your chin up, yeah. The minimum focus distance in AF is 85 centimeters, and in MF, it's a little closer at 80 centimeters. I'm gonna shoot some pictures at f2.8 here as well. Maybe, oh, do you want to sit just here? And I want to get some with the sun on your face. So yeah, if it gets really bright, just close your eyes for a little bit. I love the sun, it's just like so glowy. In terms of autofocus, this lens is a breeze to work with at a portrait photo shoot. Aside from the weight making it easier to shoot and move around with, another big update is this 85 GM2 now features 2 XD linear motors to achieve fast autofocus, and it supports shooting up to 120 FPS on the A9 III. I also wanted to try one if we like lay down in front of the flower. The cockatoos. If your head could end up somewhere here, that'd be perfect. Yes, oh, that's so pretty. I need to lay down too. So I need to be low so I can get the flowers in the shot. Wow. Okay, it's worth it. I'll share with you how it performs keeping track of a moving subject in video mode a little bit later on, so make sure you stick around to see that. But during our portrait session for stills, the lens and camera did a great job at keeping up with Julie. I asked her to move around as much as she liked throughout the photo shoot, and I used f1.4 for the majority of the time because we want to see what this lens is capable of. I had the A7 IV set to a wide focus area the entire time, and as you can see from the picture-in-picture, IAF was extremely sticky and reliable. I'm gonna get in a bit closer. It's the only bad thing about laying down is like, then it's really awkward moving around. So elegant. The sun here is like perfect as well. All right, then we're gonna try some with your other hand coming out this way as well. Here is a set of consecutive photos I took at 100% crop so you can get an idea of the autofocus performance. I had an extremely high in-focus ratio for this portrait session, but just like any lens, this 85 GM2 does still miss focus from time to time. During the backlit photos is where I noticed missed focus the most. To be fair, the sun was extremely strong in these shots, but I did have a few missed photos in those sets with the A7 IV. There were also some close-up portraits where one photo would focus on the eyelashes before the AF got it on the iris again. Overall though, I'm really happy with the results, and from my experience during this and some other photo shoots I've done with this lens, I feel like I can absolutely rely on this 85 to capture sharp images even at f1.4. That looked really cool. Okay, wait, you like grabbed the skirt like you were about to kind of like run. If you want to do like a little, I don't know what that sound effect was, but. Yes, I love that. I am super lucky we had such a beautiful golden hour to work with on this day, so of course I had to take some backlit photos. Firstly, I couldn't find much chromatic aberration in the photos I captured. The only time I could see any were in the brightest backlit photos in Julie's hair, but it's pretty minimal in my opinion. You can only see it if you're really looking for it. It is also a nice improvement from the GM1, which produced much more fringing in backlit shots. I wanted to try another one like sitting right up against the flowers too. Perfect. Next, I want to talk about the lens flare, which there are quite a lot of depending on how you're using your lighting. And I am very passionate about lens flares. With lenses being so fast and sharp and clean nowadays, I think lens flares are a great way to add character to your photos. So they are always important for me to check out and consider when deciding on a lens. This lighting is very different for me. Overall, I can see there have definitely been some improvements to the GM2 when it comes to shooting in backlit situations. The lens has really good contrast in backlight, so there's not a lot of ghosting, which means the subject can easily cut through and appear prominent in the frame, which is great. When the sun is streaming heavily into the frame, it has a nice, soft, hazy look around that area as well, which I love. Depending on your angle to the sun, this lens does start to produce some ghosting, but I find that there is still enough contrast to get your subject to stand out. This 85GM2 has a cool colored lens flare. You can see in some shots the flare ring is a blue-green color. It's quite subtle in the frame, which I am pleased to see, but sometimes a warmer colored lens flare is more beneficial for portrait photography as it's easier to camouflage the lens flare that way. For the most part, the bottom flares stay out of the way with most portrait compositions, but the flare at the top of the frame can sometimes land right on top of your subject's face. There is also this streaky flare with a rainbow pattern I notice happens occasionally when the sun is on the very edge of the frame. The GM1 also had this, but with added ghosting, so this GM2 flare is more controlled. The only time I thought it was way too distracting was in these portraits here. I was shooting at f2.8. This flare is too prominent for my liking personally. Speaking of rainbows, maybe I missed it because of the particular lighting we had on the day, but I couldn't find that rainbow flare I am such a huge fan of in the GM1. I feel like that flare gives the GM1 a really nice character. So what about the 85mm f1.2? If you've been watching my videos, you would know that an 85 f1.2 is what I really was hoping Sony would release. If you're wondering, just like me, if f1.2 is even needed, would you even be able to see the difference between f1.2 and 1.4 out on location? Well, I am working on a comparison between the Nikon 85mm f1.2 and this lens, so we can figure out just that because I also want to know, so we're going to test it out. And while I talk about this, let's take a look at some of those video autofocus tests. These were all done on the Sony a7 IV with a wide focus area, fast transition speed, and AF set to responsive. For the time being, if you want to get an idea of what it's like or why I even want a Sony 85 f1.2, we can just take a look at the Sony 50 f1.2 GM versus the Sony 50 f1.4 GM. The 1.4 is a smaller and lighter lens with an overall sharper look, similar to this 85 GM2. The 50 1.2 on the other hand is a little larger and heavier to accommodate for its faster aperture, but in my opinion has more character in the photos it produces and stunning lens flares. I personally ended up upgrading my Zeiss 50 f1.4 to the GM 1.2 for this reason. I think these are just a couple of the differences we could potentially expect. So I am curious to see if Sony will end up releasing an 85 f1.2 down the track. In any case, this 85 f1.4 GM2 is still a much needed update to the original version of the lens, and for me personally, I will be buying it. It will be going for $3099 in AUD and $1799 in USD. The biggest factor convincing me to get it is the weight. It is a night and day difference using this GM2 out on location. The next factor is the faster and better autofocus performance, and finally, I do really love the improvements they've made to shooting in backlit situations, even though I will miss my GM1 rainbow lens flare. Overall, this is such a stunning lens with very little downsides in my opinion. Let me know what you think. That's all I have for today's photo shoot with the 85mm f1.4 GM2. Finally, so exciting, but I really hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think of the lens, which ones were your favorite photos, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I make new videos every single week, so I'll see you all next time. Bye.